so happy to have you here. I am so excited to share with you. I have Alena Acker waiting in the green room right now. And she had an incredible experience reaching out for representation. And I want to just share some of her numbers with you so you can, we always say something inside of this program, data, not drama. And so I want to share some of the data with you so you can just like invest in what her story looked like. So when she sent out her first emails, which she incidentally sent out on my birthday, back in January. So in the middle of January, she had a 55% open rate on her emails, which I think is pretty phenomenal when we think about getting silences and things like that. So that's awesome. And then she ended up getting 6 meetings and 6 offers for representation. And one of the things, I'm just going to grab my notes here, because one of the things that she said that I thought was so cool is she said one person whose agency no longer represented actors on that for their clients, they must be representing writers or something, said to her that he was certain that she would succeed because her materials were so strong. And then she also got a note from like a really fancy agency that that her materials were great. And so just thinking about but they weren't looking for anyone right now, right? But just thinking about what kind of work she had done to be able to put herself out there on such a great footing where someone says, hey, I want to work with you, or hey, your materials are great, even though I'm not looking right now. And she said that one of her offers for a meeting said to her that they were already ready to work with her before they had even had a meeting. So I think that really is a testament to how she prepared and how she did this. And so I'm so excited to bring her on here. Alena, if you can start, you can pop on in here and then we can have our chat together today. There we go. Yay! Yay! And so, Alena, thank you so much for doing this and having this conversation. My intention with this conversation is that anyone listening, just who is thinking about representation or has wrestled with getting representation in the past, because we know it's kind of a thankless search at times, it can be, can see a different way or a different approach or some possibility in your story. And I just really appreciate you volunteering to be a part of sharing your journey with us. So thank you.
I'm so happy to do it.
Yay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Because I'm going to push hard on some of my questions here because you got some great results. And so I really want to make sure people can get it. Okay. So before we get into like how it went, tell us a little so we did this together inside of the Agent Goals program. So before, you'd even heard about Agent Goals or anything, can you paint a little bit of the picture of what it was like to look for reps in the past, or what your experience had been like, or where you even were reps even on your radar? Can you share that with us?
Sure. So I had worked with an agent for about 5 years, and then that kind of ran its course and ended. And I had been without representation for another 5 years after that. And I think part of it was like, I'm trying to do this on my own and like, let me see what I can do, without any help. And part of that time I spent going to those like sort of meet and greet workshop type situations. And I had met some people and gotten some nice feedback, but it just never really led anywhere. And I had gotten to a place in my career where I felt like I had done just about as much as I could do on my own. Like I had booked a ton of non-union TV and was just sort of like, I really want to, take that next step and get, move things up, a notch. And and that's
well, I love what you're saying about this. I love what you're saying about this. Like I'd started to do it on my own. Like you were getting work on your own. And there comes this point where I think a lot of actors can relate to, where you get just frustrated. Like I'm getting work on my own. Someone else should be on this journey at this point. Like I'm at the top of what I can do by my own and by myself. And one of the things that I'll often talk to actors who don't have representation, and it's such a slog to try to even get an audition that they see their friends getting because they have representation, and their friend might not even be as good of an actor or whatever, right? But they're getting the audition because the reps are just able to open the door. And so one of the things that I like to just at least say to everyone is like, be kind to yourself if you don't have reps and you're trying to get the auditions on your own, because you're right, it is a higher mountain for you to climb. And we all just know that there are certain auditions you're just not going to get without representation. So to just kind of have a lot of self-compassion when you're in that position. And if you're thinking about reps, hopefully some of what we talk about today will hopefully illuminate that in a new way. Okay, so you're doing the pay-to-pay showcase thing. You were meeting some people there. And what you said about that, so I'm sure you would go in there and do some great work, but you said you weren't hearing back. Can you paint a little bit more of that story for us?
Yeah, I just, and I think part of that, I take responsibility for was that I wasn't really like reaching out again or following up. So that was something I hadn't given as much thought to. And just, yeah, it was like I kind of didn't know what to do next. I would like go and do the showcase and then just kind of didn't hear from anyone and was like, okay, I guess I'll do another one, or, focus more on my casting director contacts and try to get more stuff going that way. So
Yeah, and I think also, and I don't know if this relates to you, Alena, but I think that sometimes doing the showcase at least lets us put relief in that feeling of, well, I need to do something towards representation. So doing the showcase at least lets that energy that's inside of me going like this get put somewhere for a while, right? And your story is not unique in that those showcases aren't always paying off. And that's not to say that I don't think those people are looking. And it's not to say that they're not awesome managers and agents, but I think that it sometimes doesn't set the actor up quite for the win that we were hoping for. Oftentimes, I think it kind of leads you to loss, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to let you share us your results. Tell us your results and how you ultimately landed your representation. Could you walk us through that? And is it okay if I interrupt a little bit whenever I feel like?
Of course.
Great. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Go ahead and interrupt. So I ended up with 6 meetings and 6 offers of representation. And I ended up with an awesome manager and an amazing agent. So that's
awesome.
All I could have hoped for,
So first of all, you had to turn 5 people down, 4 people down, it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that, because I think a lot of times we don't even picture that that's part of the journey. And that can be kind of uncomfortable, actually, when you have to do that. Can you tell us about what that was like for you? Maybe it wasn't uncomfortable for you. I would love to just, in your words, what was that like?
Well, I think one of the things that was great about the Agent Goals program is it helped prepare you for all kinds of different things that could happen. And so when it came time to do that, my mindset was already in a place where it didn't feel so difficult or so awful to have to do that. And it was like a little sad just because I've met some great people and I was like, I wish I could work with everyone, but that would be super wild. So, just having to say like, hey, I've decided to go in a different direction, but it was really great meeting with you. And I hope that our paths will cross again in the future. And, most of them were like, just like, great, thanks for letting me know, take care. It was good meeting you too. Some of them were like one of them was like a little disappointed, but
breaks your heart.
What can you do? Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of breaks your heart and feels good at the same time, right? Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about, for you, what helped you decide? How did you make your decision? What helped you there?
Again, it's built into the program. I sound like a commercial or something, but it's like really there's a way that you can look at the people that you've met with in terms of how well you vibe with them and just, some other aspects of their business and all of that you can kind of put together into an overall view of that particular rep and how you feel about them. And for me, it wasn't too hard because I just had like with the agent that I'm working with now, I just had such an amazing meeting. It's that feeling of like when you're falling in love. I mean, not like that, but it was the feeling of just like, I got off that Zoom and I was like, oh my God, like, oh, wow. So I really, really felt like we connected and got each other. And to be honest, it was moving to have someone talk about my career in terms of my wildest dreams coming true and in terms of that being a realistic thing to have happen. And, meeting with someone who talked about, oh, I could see you on this show. I could see you on that show. And those were the very shows that I had on my list. And so it was really, it had been a long time, I think, since I had talked to an industry professional who was just like, oh yeah, like we're going to do great things. Like, this is going to be awesome. And so that I pretty much knew right away, like this is my person. And then my manager, we also had like a really wonderful conversation. And he actually said like, will you freelance with me like starting today? And I was like, oh, I'm meeting with some other people. And he was like, I really want to submit you for something today. Like, so can we just like, it's fine if you sign with someone in 2 weeks, like there's just something I have you in mind for like right now. And I was like, okay, if, you know, if you're sure that like, it's okay if I, you know, choose to go with someone else later, then let's do this. And then he got me that audition a couple of days later. So
wow. Alena, that's such a good Cinderella kind of story in this too. That's so great. And one of the things that you kind of breezed by, but I'm sure some other actors were like, oh my gosh, in your meeting, you said to them, I'm taking other meetings and I can't sign with you, even though they offered representation in the room, is like such a moment where some people might not know that that is an okay thing to say. So I just love that you really gave yourself permission to own two things. I've got so many things I want to make sure that we underline. The other thing you said was that to have someone say back to you what your dreams of what they would imagine for your career, and what a power and a gift that is. And one of the things, you know, I'm interested to hear from you, what do you think attracted those so right people to you through this process? How do you think that you showed up? Because this is about how you showed up, that was who you attracted to you. What can you tell us about that?
I think part of it was the internal work that I did through the program. So before starting the program, I think I had lost touch with like the Alena who graduated college and was like, time to become a star, you know? And so you get knocked around in the industry a little bit, and you can get to a place where, you know, maybe you have some beliefs in place about who you are and what you can and can't do that are not actually helping you. So getting through some of those things and really coming to a place where I could believe again, like, oh yeah, like these awesome shows that I love watching on TV, like I would be great in those and I belong in them. And spending the time to really think about who I am and where I should be cast, and coming up with materials that really showcase me in my best light for the roles that I'm really perfect for. So that then when people saw those materials on the other end, they could say like, oh, she knows who she is. I know who she is. Like, you know, this is someone that I need to work with. And also just practicing those meetings, you know, that's an important part. And it's something that would not have occurred to me before, but practicing the meetings, like doing a little bit of work beforehand. You know, maybe it sounds a little bit woo-woo, but some visualization and things like that we did, so that I could show up and really just be me, and feel confident in what I bring to the table, which is so important, you know. So to have really a clear sense of like, what's so great about me, or where do I excel as an actress, and you know, what can I do that's uniquely mine, and to be able to bring that to the table, and just feel really myself, and be able to just like show up and be like, hey, you know, I'm a person, you're a person, let's get to know each other.
What I love that you said about this, Alena, is like someone might be listening and think like, well, yeah, I can just be myself in a meeting. But the truth is there's so much on the line in that meeting. It is so easy for us to kind of like disappear or go on autopilot, or they ask that one question you were just hoping they would never ask. And you suddenly are like, you left the room. You're not even in the room anymore. And so those practice meetings, it sounds like, gave you, at least I see them give actors a place to ground themselves so that they can, whatever happens here, I'm going to be in the room. I'm not going to leave. And the other thing that I think that I want to make sure we kind of underline is you didn't have to puff yourself up when you were talking about what was great about you. It was the honest to goodness, authentic truth about what was greatest to you. Because I think, you know, we all dread that question, like, how do you see yourself? Or tell me a little bit about you, or what have you been up to? And those questions can be like, you just opened my veins and I'm having to try to talk about myself at the same time. Because can't you see nothing good has been happening? Look at my resume. I want more to be happening. Oh my God. Like all that can come forward, right? And you just see it. And that's when this person who's just met you for the first time, I think, doesn't trust you. Doesn't feel like you can trust yourself. And that's so not who you are. It's just because you're in this dang meeting and it's throwing things off, right? And so I just love that you identified how it affected you to be able to go into those meetings. And then I also wanted to draw back, because some of the data that you shared with us is that you had someone offer you representation before you'd even had a meeting because they loved your, can you share what that sounded like or what that looked like?
they, they wrote back and just said like, wonderful, adorable. I'd love to rep you across the board. And I was like, what? That was not something I had expected. Like it really, it almost felt like too much. Like, then I responded and said like, could we meet? Could we talk on the phone or something? Like, I'd love to just get to know you. And I'm again, meeting with some other people. So, yeah. So, I mean, but that was pretty wild to just have someone look at the materials and say like, yep, I'm sold. And I'm like, you don't even want to like talk to me
right
first. I think it's like, that's how
right.
sure you are. So
right. I think it's such a testament, Alena, to the way you showed up in your materials and the way that you showed up in your email for someone to feel like they know you enough to be able to take that bet on someone they've never talked to. And I'm not saying that you should definitely just go with someone who doesn't want to meet with you. I think it's important you to meet with them, but I want to make sure that you hear that I think it's such a testament of your well-deserved attention that you attracted through this process. So if you were to point to like one thing that helped you out the most through the agent goals process, what would you say that was and why?
All right. So I hate picking favorites. I'm like such a top 3, top 5 girl. So I would love to give you my top 3, but if I must give you just one thing, I will conform to your strict parameters, Brian.
You can give top 3. You can give top 3. I can extend to the top. We can make a listicle. Okay.
All right. All right. It is a listicle. I'll try to keep it brief and concise, like I learned to be in the program. So I would say the first thing is the actor's story, because that I don't think anything else would have been possible for me without that. And it was an assignment where when I first saw it, my immediate thought was, how do I get out of doing this? Like, I was just like, I want to run away. I have to hide. Yeah. Like, and so then of course I knew like, I have to do this. Obviously, if if all I want to do is like hide under a blanket from this assignment, I know I have to do it. And so it was transformative. It was a relief, and it really, really helped me for the rest of the program, because basically what you do is kind of,
and I also don't want to get anybody to get too confused in this process. Right. It's such a deep dive here. But before I go anywhere, I would say, I would have been you if I were in the program too. I would have been like, okay, I'm going to skip this part because no, I've done enough work on myself. I don't need to go there. And like when I was creating the program, I was always thinking about like, no, but we have to have, this is the most important thing, Brian, even though you'd be the bad student. So like, I just love your willingness to say yes to that. And fighting with your own ability that wants to say no is, I think, such a testament to your, I didn't mean to cut you off. So I want to let you keep going where you're going now. Yeah.
Yeah, just that it helped me with my mindset. It involved, some inner work that really helped me when things got, difficult at other points in the program, because things are always going to get a little difficult when you're putting yourself out there, it really helped me through that, having completed that assignment. So the second thing in my list of 3 is the community. So I definitely was someone before this program who kind of did things on my own. And I don't know if it's just kind of, part of our industry or the competition that we sometimes feel we need to like take part in as actors, which we don't. But it felt very siloed, and I didn't have like, a group of other actors who I'd be like, oh, what do you think of this self-tape? Or like, this thing happened, like, what would you do in that situation? And in Agent Goals, there's just such a wonderful community of people where, whether it's like, hey, can someone look at my resume and tell me if you think I should do it this way or that way? Or if you're just like, I'm having a rough day and I just need someone to tell me it's going to be okay. Like, there is going to be someone there who will reach out and help you with whatever it is that you need. And so it's just, it was so lovely to have people to rely on. Like, as someone who has had trouble asking for help in the past, it was really wonderful to be able to ask for help whenever I needed it and get help.
Wait, and Alena, can we just please, for 1 second, can I please just offer some praise? You are like one of the most you contribute so much inside of that group too. And the way you described yourself is you didn't see yourself as a person who was going to contribute a lot, because you said, I kind of see myself as a person who's working independently. And then it sounds like part of what the community did for you is it gave you a role both as a student and as a contributor, as a person who's a member of the community and one who gets to share there. And that, what I love about that is I think when you become someone who's contributing in a community that's open in that way, right, is your leadership starts to emerge and how you can truly be a leader. And I just want to just compliment you and thank you for being so willing to throw up answers into that group to like say, here's what I think, right? And one of here's the secret about the community. The reason why I engage the actors so much inside of that community is because I want your opinions to be okay, so that by the time you get to the space where you're choosing a manager and agent, you feel like having an opinion is enough. You don't have to have the right or wrong answer. Your opinion is what gets to help you. And I think that so often it's like, just take what you can get from scraps of the table. Don't say, yeah, it's not good or bad. It's just what you get. This is all you get. You're going to just get scraps from the table as an actor, as an artist. And this way you're starting to be able to say, oh, I don't know the right answer for which resume you should use, but for some reason I liked the first one because XYZ, like that is what we're trying to get that kind of cycle inside of us built, that our opinions are worthwhile. I remember that I read this once that said, you never have to apologize for your opinions, or that like smart business owners or people, like, you don't apologize for your opinions. And so I just love that you found that space to take up space. So, okay, 2 of 3. I'm scared. What's number 3?
And number 3 is the unit on unforgettable meetings. So just all of the prep for the actual meeting itself, because I think, you could do a bunch of work to reach out to reps, and then you get there, and like you said before, you kind of freeze, or there's a question that like pushes a button or something like that. So just, practicing the meetings, thinking about some of the questions that might be asked there, and just having that prep, so then you can go in there and yes, you can be yourself, but also you don't feel like I just have to like recite my resume to this person and hope that, my credits are what they want to hear.
Right.
It's like you've already proven yourself when you get into that meeting too. So
yes. And that, Alena, I will just say that's where I saw you really put some things on the line and put some skin in the game, where you were willing to be seen by strangers before you got in front of them on a call, before you got them on the Zoom call. You were in the email you sent. You were in your electronic press kit. We knew who you were if we decided to meet with you. And that's just a testament to how willing you were to commit. And that can be, you got a 55% open rate, but that means a lot of people never wrote you anything or didn't ask you because 6 people asked for a meeting, right? So there's people who didn't say anything, where you really put yourself out there. And I think it's so important that we acknowledge and just clock that is why this had such a great success for you. I love those 3. So unforgettable meetings, the community, and the actor story. Those are 2 great. So we got a triple whammy here, people, with this one. Great. What did you learn about yourself in this process?
So much. Oh my goodness. So I learned that I can keep promises to myself, which was a big one. I've definitely been like the obliger type, where I do a better job of keeping promises to other people. And so I had the intention through this process that like, I'm going to promise myself to like finish things along the way, and I'm going to do it. And I did. So that was really amazing. I also learned, I really got real with myself about some things that maybe I could have been doing better in my acting career, and not in a way of like, oh, I need to like think about how I'm such a bad person or a bad actor because I'm not doing this. Like I, could let go of those types of feelings, but say, I could really be doing a better job with sound on my self tapes. So let me invest in some equipment there. I could really be doing a better job of staying in touch with my network. So let me make a plan for how I'm going to do that. Or, I'm going to need some new headshots soon, so let me get that in motion. And that was really helpful, to be able to look at what I'm doing very honestly and see, what am I doing well, and where are there some places where there's room for growth, but not in a way that was judgmental of myself, just in a way of like, okay, so here are some things on my list, to tackle one at a time.
Yeah. what I'm hearing inside of this, Elena, and I want other people to tap into this, is in the search for reps, at times you might feel like you need to be bulletproof or have armor. And what the opposite is what you're saying, which is actually in the journey of getting ready for these meetings and doing this process, I saw some places in my career where I could do a little bit better. And rather than pulling away from them and say, oh, I can't look at that right now, I just kind of embraced, oh, that's part of what's maybe next after I finish doing this thing. And that I just love the way that it was a authentic acknowledgement of where you are, as opposed to, I'm going to hide that and not think about it, because then you would have become delusional in your meetings and you wouldn't have been able to show up. And I'm curious, I have a question for you. So I've asked a lot of questions, but I have a very specific question for you. So inside of the program, if you notice, I am a big advocate for this happens on your own timeline, right? Like I've created the course to happen in a certain timeline, but actually I believe that like if this is a week you need off and take care of your mental health or take care of yourself and self-care, because I don't need you to get a bunch of meetings and then suck in your meetings, right? So that would be the wrong way for this process to go. And I've noticed how different people's journeys are. Some people are like, I'm just into it and I'm moving to it. And some people are like, this is taking me a little more time. I want to go a little bit deeper. Is there anything about that, if there's an actor listening right now who might be, I don't know, slapping them on the back for not having their manager agent already or being hard on themselves, that you would want them to hear that you learned through this process in terms of timing?
Just that it is really helpful to lean into the idea that your timeline is as it's meant to be. And so I'm someone who brings a little bit of skepticism to the table sometimes. And so it's like not always easy for me to embrace the like, you are exactly where you need to be. And like, but it really is a helpful mindset. That there's a scarcity mindset helps no one, and this is something that I think we've been conditioned to believe in our society, in our industry, like in just so many ways and in so many places in our lives. And the truth is that there is enough for everyone, and that, what is yours is coming to you. And there were some things, that happened. I was all set to send my emails a week earlier than I ended up doing it. And like something stressful happened in my life. And I was like, you know what? This is the universe telling me like, just chill for a second. And, there were a few other things like that happened where I was like, the timing isn't right. I need to take a step back here. I need to take a moment. And I really, really feel like my timeline is unfolding just the way that it needs to. And so I would just say, like, let go of scarcity mindset. Let go of thinking that you're too late or that you're behind. There is time, and it is worth, putting in your time on a timeline that works for you. And you don't need to rush. You can't rush personal growth. And you'll get there. And it just, has felt like amazing things have just kept happening. So.
Oh, that makes me so happy. So I want to ask you something about, I love what you just said, though. I just want to make sure you hear that. I love how you have said that inside of this, you became more comfortable with the idea that things are happening on the timeline that they are supposed to, which I just love that that's one great lesson that you take away from it. The other thing that I wanted to ask you is, in your journey, did you, inside of Agent Goals, we do like, there's an email one and there's some follow-up emails. Did you end up doing follow-up emails, or can you just tell us, did you do a round one and a round two and a round three, or how did yours work out?
Yeah, I did almost all of the follow-ups. So I did the round one, and things were like a little bit quiet.
Yep.
Round one. So I was a little bit like, oh, what's happening? But then round two came along, and that's when everything super heated up for me. And then I did round three with some of the people, but not all of them. And by that time I was I was ready to make my decision.
Great. I love that. The reason why I asked that question is, a lot of times, I'll see actors who really work themselves into a slather and they're breaking a sweat and they're going to do their first reach out to managers and agents, and then they don't get any response and they back off and like, okay, maybe I'll look again in 6 months or a year, because that hurt, because I put so much energy into it and nothing happened. And if there's a lesson I can pass on to everyone, it is that seasonally, I just see like sometimes people are answering people on their first email, and sometimes they're answering them on their third email. And it kind of just happens seasonally. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It could be, oh, people are busy with the holidays or whatever. I could try to ascribe reason to it, but I just choose to make no meaning of it and just say, that's just the way it is, which is why I think it's so integral, necessary that you have a round one and a round two and a round three, and you have a way to kind of manipulate or plan for that. So I just appreciate you sharing that. It wasn't always like, wasn't the first one out of the gate that like made it end up being 6 meetings. So that's so helpful. So I don't want to keep you for much more time, but I wanted to ask you this question. There are probably some actors right now who are listening, who were where you were before Agent Goals, maybe doing showcases with that healthy dose of skepticism, which I just loved that you brought throughout the program. Actually, I want to just compliment Alena for dancing with her own skepticism inside of something she's just being asked to trust. You know, sometimes I talk about like, you don't have to believe that this recipe is going to make a chocolate cake, but I promise you, if you follow the steps, there will be a chocolate cake at the end. And so sometimes, you know, that skepticism, I think just is one of the ways that we're smart. I think we sometimes may feel we're being skeptical, but it's one of the ways that we're using our intelligence. So I just want to honor how beautifully you navigated that through each step, because like you said, you did take each step. So before I leave you with this question of that person who's out there who might be thinking of themselves the way you were at the beginning, what would you want them to hear? Just like outside of the timing is divine, it's going to be divine. Is there anything else you would want them to hear today?
I mean, I would just say, give it a shot. I was also skeptical at first. In fact, I found out about the program and then decided not to do it, and then decided to do it later. And I would just say, like, this was truly life-changing for me. And I do not say that lightly. I'm definitely someone who gets disappointed often because I like buy into the hype about something and I'm like, okay, it wasn't like life-changing. But for me, this really was. It just helped me get so clear on myself as an actor, on my career and my trajectory, and just helped me get back to that place where I really could believe in myself and my talent. And really believe that I belong on the shows where I belong, you know. And it's just, give it a shot, because it worked amazingly well for me. And if nothing else, you know, you will learn so much about yourself and, become a better actor and maybe even a better human being if,
Yeah, I love
you
that.
know. So,
I love that. That's the secret aim of the program. That's the secret aim of the program, is to make us better citizens of the world. And I believe that when actors are working, they're making the maximum impact on making this the world we want to see. And so that's the whole name of the game here. So thank you so much for spending this time with me, Alena. I want to thank everyone else for listening. And I want to just make sure, if you take anything away from this today, it is that this is possible for you, and that there is the perfect match. I don't know if I like the word perfect match, but there is a ideal manager agent out there for you, and that it is simply about believing into that the right thing is going to happen at the right time, that you are enough, and then finding a steps to follow to put yourself out there, because resistance is going to rise up. That's just part of what it means to be an artist. So thank you so much for spending the time with us today, Alena. We wish you so much success with your new fabulous representation. If anybody wants to follow you on your Instagram or social media, is there anything you'd be willing to share with us today?
oh yeah, I'm at Miss Alenius. It's at MISS_ALENEOUS on Instagram.
Great. We will make sure we tag to that in the post here and in our show notes. So thank you so much for being with me today. For everyone listening, thank you so much for being today. If you want to know where it all started, Alena came to this free training I was teaching called Make Agents Want You. We are linking to it in this post right now, and we'll link to it in the show notes. So if you want to see where it all started, it's a free training. No matter what, it is based in the framework that we used inside of Agent Goals, and it will help you reach out to reps in a way that makes you feel completely whole and centered and inside of yourself, so that you can do this with power. So go check out the free training, and I will see you soon. It's makeagentswantyou.com. Cute URL, right? I think I did good with that URL. All right. Thank you so much, Alena, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.